By round of applause, anybody in this audience who has children? How many of you guys have children? Great, great, great. Okay. Now, out of everybody who just clapped, clap again if you were married when you had those children. Great. Okay. Now, how many of you accidentally got pregnant from a one-night stand with your friend Craig, and now you're co-parenting a 3.5-year-old? So just, okay. Well, boy, do I have a story for you. Good old Craig. He came over that night to make me feel better. And it was a rough night for both of us. First off, he had had 2 bottles of Coors Light, and I had 2 bottles of Chardonnay. So, a very different vibe going on. At one point during sex, he asked me to not throw up on him. So not the whirlwind romance we're all hoping for, right? The next morning, I text him, I go, hey man, I just want to make sure we're good. And he goes, yeah, we're so good, I wouldn't even consider what we did last night sex. And I was like, oh, thank God, me neither. Woo! I was like, so can we make a pact? And he's like, yeah. I go, let's not tell anybody. He's like, no, we're not gonna tell anybody. So we made a vow, we are not gonna tell a single person for the rest of our lives under any circumstances that we ever had sex. Yeah. Yeah. What a fun promise. Because 3 weeks later, a late period of positive pregnancy test, we were like, we're gonna have to tell a lot of fucking people, right? So here's the interesting thing about Craig and I. We both come from very conservative and religious families, and we both left them to pursue a career in entertainment and hedonism, okay? So this was not on either of our 5-year plans, okay? Now, Craig was supportive from the beginning. When I say supportive, he was like, I'm gonna support you. Whatever you decide to do, just make sure you make the right decision. Okay, I'm gonna support you. Like, that was him supporting me. Now, I didn't want to be a mom. I should say, I never wanted to be a single mom. I was raised by one. I saw how hard that was, and I was like, absolutely not, hard pass. Did my mom teach me how to make White Russians by the time I was 8? Yes, but other than that, not a lot of perks, okay? Yes. But here I was looking down the barrel of being a single mom, and I was like, what am I gonna do? And my therapist, Annie, said, well, you know, Nicole, sometimes we create what we fear most. And I'm like, yeah, but if that were true, I'd be performing this tonight in a room filled with snakes and pap smears, so. Now, ironically, I took to pregnancy swimmingly, which surprised all my friends because I used to eat the morning after pill like they were Tic Tacs, right? You know, sometimes you put them in a Pez dispenser just to keep it interesting. Oh, change it up, right? And I did have doubts. I had those thoughts in my head. I was like, I cannot have a baby. It will ruin my career. No one will ever date a single mom. But at the same time, I had this mama bear energy. I was radiating mama bear energy. Craig, as supportive as he was radiating more of like a midlife crisis, is what his vibe was. Let me get specific here. So, while I was installing a car seat and learning how to breastfeed, Craig got 3 tattoos and a brand new BMW. Right? I'm just gonna tell you this. Before I told Craig I was pregnant, he had 0 tattoos. Today, 4 years later, he has 9, okay? 9, you guys, wait, you guys. Wait. They're all so sad. Oh, they're so sad. These are the saddest tattoos you've ever, there's one, it's like a clown and it's crying. There's another one, it says, eat the rich, which is something only poor people say. And then like 6 of them are lyrics from that band, The Smiths. Do you guys know The Smiths? Right? The lead singer, Morrissey, the biggest Debbie Downer ever. Like Morrissey's Who's in Your Earbuds right before you step in front of a bus on purpose, right? So sad. So sad. Let me think, that's 7, 8 tattoos. I'm missing one. I'll think about it. Okay, so Craig comes back to Kansas City with me to meet my entire family. And that's when my dad's like, are you sure you guys don't want to be together? And I said, Dad, no, and I can explain why. Now, here's the deal. I'm an optimist at heart, but I'm also a moody bitch, right? And Craig, 10 times moodier. And so I saw this on TikTok, so you guys know this is verified. Anyway. But I explained it to my dad, and I said, 2 moody people can't be together. A moody person with a non-moody, 2 non-moody, fine, but 2 moody people can. So I said, Dad, it's like putting 2 polarizing magnets together when they're too moody. And you can't, long term, you can't force it. It's just not gonna work. But for one night, if you bend one over, look at that, pregnant. Right? My dad did not like that analogy at all. Cut to September 5th, 2019, in the doctor's room with Craig and my best girlfriend, Corey. The doctor checks on my cervix, which if you've never had that done, real treat. And she's like, oh, you're actually dilated to 3 centimeters. And I was like, yeah, that's probably because of college, whatever. And she's like, no. That means the baby's coming. I was like, oh, cool, all right. 24 hours later, I gave birth to a beautiful, healthy, 8-pound, 6-ounce baby girl. Yes. We named her Everly Ryan Burch Tovey, which means we hyphenated her last name, or as my dad says, ugh, fucking liberals. I should also say that my dad is devout Catholic, and he has 3 kids from 2 marriages. And all 3 of his children had kids out of wedlock. So at a certain point, maybe it's you. So, the other interesting thing is, while we were in the labor and delivery room, the nurse could not figure out what our dynamic was between me, Craig, and Corey. Because Craig and I, obviously I'm the one in the bed giving birth, but Craig and I weren't the affectionate couple that most married people are, right? So she didn't know if Craig and Corey were a couple and I was the surrogate, or if Corey and I were a lesbian couple and he was the donor. So at one point, my mom makes it. She flies in from Kansas City, she arrives, and it's go time. I start calling shots. I say, somebody grab my left leg, somebody hold my right leg, and somebody hold my head up. And my mom, everybody grabs the leg, and my mom looks at Craig, and she's like, are you okay with the head? And I said in front of 2 nurses and an obstetrician, if he was okay with the head, we wouldn't be in this situation now, would we? Yeah. And now she knows who the parents are, okay? Now, my birth plan, which is an oxymoron, is that I wanted to go into labor on my actual due date, which was ironically Labor Day. I wanted to labor at home as long as possible until it was time for Craig to take me to the hospital, where my daughter would be born to the sounds of Nora Jones and Sarah Bareilles. And then eventually somebody would bring me sushi and a latte, and then I would be back to running my regular 3 miles by the end of the month. Yes. You hear the moms laughing in the audience like, oh, you dumb bitch. That's, right? What actually happened was I was induced 5 days late. I went through 15 hours of labor, 4.5 hours of pushing. It took 3 sets of hands and a vacuum to get her out. When she was out, they realized my uterus ripped and they had to stitch it manually without an epidural. Now, yeah. Oh, I brought the room down. You should have been there, way worse for me. So it's like that scene in Alien where you could see something coming up, but instead of an extraterrestrial, it was just my doctor elbow deep fisting me, After that, I proceeded to bleed out on the table. I projectile vomited on my daughter, and I lost my hearing for 4 minutes. But then, they took me to the recovery room where I could heal. I'm sorry, breastfeed, okay? Now, this is where it gets interesting. My daughter has something that's called a strong latch, okay? So with just her gums, she ripped off the tip of my right nipple. Yeah. Lactation specialist comes in and looks at it, and she goes, that should grow back. What? What kind of reptile shit is that? It's gonna grow back? Fucking hell. You should know it did grow back and a little longer than expected. So. Last piece of advice is that who we hang out with outside of our dating world is extremely important, especially after a breakup. Because after a breakup, we tend to date down, right? And we need our friends to be our radar. Here's the deal. After a breakup, you're not gonna go after the Margot Robbies and the Chris Evans anymore. That's what I call the Mount Everest. You just got your heart broken. You're gonna lower it, play it a little safer. You're gonna be hanging around like Mount Whitney or Half Dome, okay? Or if you're like me, who plays it really safe after a breakup, parking lot of Chipotle, okay? So basically, I'm dating Schmeagol from Lord of the Rings at this point, okay? Because he's not gonna leave, right? So, I had just gone through this huge breakup, and I called my girlfriends, and I was like, I know I'm still healing, but it's been 24 hours, and I met this one guy, and he's really weird, but he's kind of nice, and I think he's the one. And they were like, you need to bring him to the bar right now. And I was like, well, it's a little late at night. And they're like, bring him to the bar. And I was like, okay. So, we walk into the bar. Here I am, dragging in fucking Gollum, okay? So, dragging in Gollum, and 60 seconds, guys, no more than 60 seconds. My girlfriends have come up, separated us, sent him home in a lift, grabbed me a Sauvignon Blanc, sat me down and said, girl, we need to work on this self-esteem because this shit ain't happening again, okay? Yes. I did have to stop hanging out with this group of married women because they made me feel bad. Well, they made me feel bad while simultaneously complaining about being married. Like, their biggest complaint was, we have to have sex all the time. They always want to have sex. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm sorry. The women that are complaining about sex have diamond rings on their finger. I'm over here doing Debbie Does Dallas in a hot tub with a guy named Tico, and he won't even accept my Facebook friend request. Do you know what I mean? Now, when I turned 36, I had the best handle on my life. I was in therapy. I was in the best shape of my life. I was making 6 figures doing what I love, and I was dating a higher caliber of man. I'm talking about the kind of guy who tells other people you're their girlfriend. In Los Angeles! You have to dig for these fuckers, but they're there! It was going great, and I actually was dating this one guy. Very briefly, he called it quits, and that's fine, because now I had new tools to self-soothe, okay? I wasn't gonna sleep around or drink my way through every bar. Instead, I could go hiking, I could meditate, and I could call my therapist. Yes, and that lasted for 2 whole weeks.